Here's a scenario. A player goes down in the middle of an expedition and their team doesn't make it back in time to revive them. The screen turns red and just like that, they lose control of their own character and something worse happens. That character gets back up, walks to the cart, starts looting like nothing happened, except it's not them anymore. It's the jungle wearing their face and waiting for a teammate to turn their back. That's the Mound, Omen of Cthulhu on paper, and it might be one of the most unique co-op horror concepts to come out in years. But after spending real time with the full release, repetition looks like the real threat here, not the monsters. There's also one detail about the studio behind this game that makes its biggest weakness genuinely surprising. That's coming up a little later, but let's get into it. The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu, launched on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, is developed by Ace Team, the studio behind Xenoclash and the Eternal Cylinder, and published by Nacon. This breakdown covers three things: what the game gets right, the problem that could define its lifespan, and whether it's worth buying at launch or waiting. The setup is really straightforward. Up to 4 players take the role of explorers working for a captain during the Conquistador era. The crew sails out to a cursed stretch of the coastline of Chile and searching for treasures, survivors, and answers about what happened to 2 ships that vanished there before them. The galleon, called the Tempestad, functions as a safe hub between expeditions. The jungle is not safe at any means. Before each expedition, players select a contract, recover a logbook, rescue a survivor, haul back a set value in treasure, and then divide gear as a team. Inventory space is limited to 6 or 7 slots per player, and weapon and ammo included, which forces real coordination before setting out. Rain disables firearms completely, so a team relying too heavily on guns can get caught without a backup plan. Once everything starts, there's loud actions, gunfire, sprinting and armor, cutting through the wrong patch of foliage, advancing the timer, and once it runs out, the jungle activates and sends everything it has at the party. Taken on its own, that's a competent extraction loop. Nothing necessarily new. The insanity system is what separates the game from everything else currently in the genre. As a player spends more time in the jungle, their grip on reality deteriorates, and critically, this happens individually. Teammates are not seeing the same threats at the same time. In one documented case, a player calmly approached a pit lined with spikes and bodies while teammates yelled for them to stop. To that player, there was no pit, just a solid ground and a small shrine. The system just escalates from there. Enemies can appear disguised as teammates, sometimes using a character model nobody in the lobby even selected, meaning players can't safely assume anyone around them is who they claim to be. And then there's the mechanic that I was talking about in the beginning. A down player who isn't revived in time gets taken by the jungle and turned into a hostile copy of themselves, hunting the same team that they were just fighting alongside. This isn't just a jump scare system, it's designed to specifically erode trust between teammates, and based on everything documented so far, it works extremely well. Elevated heart rate, red vision distortion, full-blown panic over threats that turn out to be nothing. This is one of the strongest pure paranoia mechanics to show up in a co-op horror in recent memory. A pitch that boiled down to a horror game with hallucinations wouldn't be interesting on its own. Specifically targeting trust between real teammates, that's what makes this one stand out.
Samagona, we are getting close to the mound. Ines and I will consult the manuscripts. You scout ahead.
So what's the problem? Unfortunately, it's the combat. Melee is the weak point of the game, and it's rough enough that even players who spent significant time with the game don't agree on the exact cause. Some people point to the range and hit detection, describing extended melee exchanges where weapon range doesn't line up with what's happening on screen. Others point out to the lack of unique animations, arguing that combat feels repetitive because there are only 2 or 3 visible attack variations in extended use. Either explanation lands in the same place. Right now, Melee is the least polished system in the game by a clear margin. Here's the detail worth returning to. Ace Team's backlog is built on physical hand-to-hand combat design. Xenoclash is a brawler at its core. This is a studio that, based on its own history, should have a melee mechanic more dialed in than most of anyone currently working in horror. That gap between the studio pedigree and the ship execution is the most surprising part of this launch. And to be clear, this isn't a broken game overall. The writing draws directly from Lovecraft's actual 1930s novella rather than using its own name set as dressing. Atmosphere carries a lot of weight, sound design, environmental reactivity, the tension of watching a noise meter creep towards red. Technically, the launch build is cleaner than expected for a project this ambitious, with a developed team that has been patching quickly and AI that, while somewhat predictable, holds up structurally. Ability is a factor that determines whether this is worth buying today or worth waiting on. Multiple sessions in, loot placement, and enemy variety both start to feel familiar. If the pattern continues across the 10 to 20 hours, that hallucination system, the core selling point, risks becoming predictable at the exact point where it needs to stay unpredictable. One good thing about this game that's gone largely unmentioned, there's no dedicated servers. The Mound runs peer-to-peer, meaning that there's no live service back end to eventually shut down. That's a great genuine advantage for a long-term playability, independent on how much content variety the game adds later. One caveat worth flagging, save progression doesn't transfer from PC to console, so platform choice at launch is effectively permanent. On the friend group question, yes, the Sanity system is clearly built around a consistent, familiar crew, since the hallucination and possum mechanic only lands if players actually know each other. That said, reports from random match-made lobbies have generally been positive. Corporation communication and enjoyment have all held up among strangers. This isn't a game that falls apart with randoms, it's just simply better with a known group. The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu has one of the more well-designed psychological horror systems to show up in a co-op gaming in recent years. The sanity mechanic, the player hallucinations, and the corrupted revive system all land as intended. The melee combat is the weak point of the game that critics can't fully agree on what the cause is, and mission replayability is the single biggest open question determining whether the game holds up past its first few weekends. For a group of 4 players, this is worth buying at launch. For solo players expecting the same experience, expectations should be adjusted accordingly. Subscribe if this helped. There will be a follow-up once Ace Team has time to patch to see what's actually changed. If you already got hours logged in, drop a comment on whether your combat complaints line up with this. And if you want to catch gameplay live, I stream Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 9:30 Eastern Time on Twitch at AndreTheAlpha. Link is in the bio. But until then, stay safe, stay smart, don't trust your teammates blindly, and stay alpha.